What up, it's Dane here. In this video I'm going to be telling you how to design your own program for hypertrophy, so for building more muscle. So let's get straight into it. So before we actually get into the program design, I need to tell you probably the most important information you will hear about building muscle in your life. So if you haven't been training at least 3 years, then I highly recommend you basically bulk most of the time. When you're a beginner, you don't always want to be in a cutting phase. You always want to try and be gaining as much weight as possible, so building the most amount of muscle mass. Of course, if you're overweight, then yes, you need to be in a calorie deficit in order to lose that fat. However, if you're a skinny guy, you want to be bulking for a very long period of time. Don't get fooled by social media about people saying they're shredded year round. And yeah, there may be some natural people there, but most of the time they're taking steroids so they can be shredded and still build muscle. But anyway, without further ado, man, let me show you how I've designed my hypertrophy lean gaining program and how you can do the same too. Okay, so let's start off with my goals for this lean gaining phase, this bulking phase. So as you will see in my program design, my main goals are getting my flat bench press up, the good old compound lift right, and also bringing my back up, because my back, in my opinion, is a very weak area. That said, again, if you're a beginner, even an intermediate like me, I would say an intermediate, then just really focus on bringing your strengths up instead of your weaknesses. That's more for advanced people, right? That said, though, I still want to bring up my back, although I'm probably an intermediate. Okay, so the two main principles that need to be in your training program when your main goal is to maximize muscle mass. Number one is progressive tension overload, basically adding more weight over a period of time. And number two, which is really important when it comes to muscular hypertrophy, again building more muscle mass, is increasing the volume load. The volume load is basically the sets times the reps times the weight, aka load. So now you know the two main principles. Let me give you the main principles as well that need to be in this training program. Okay, so the other three principles is as follows: specificity, variation, and fatigue management. Now, although increasing volume load, progressive tension overload, although they're very important, specificity could actually be arguably the most important. Here's why. If your main goal is to maximize your muscle growth, then it probably wouldn't be the best idea to incorporate really low rep ranges in your training program, meaning working at, let's say, 1 to 3 reps, maybe 4 to 6 reps, and really neglecting the kind of moderate to higher rep ranges. Because we all know, if our main aim is muscular hypertrophy, then we really want to be working at a rep range of about, let's say, about 7 to 15 most of the time. So when it comes to variation, a lot of people they'll tell you, vary the exercise up, man, your muscles are going to get stale, you need to resensitize them, and that's all great, but the question really becomes, how often should you change them? Now, my answer to this is about every mesocycle, which is basically every month of training. Now, if you periodize your program like I'm going to show you, then that's going to be a mesocycle. So 1 to 4 weeks, after every 4 weeks, then you change them. That said, though, I really only recommend you change the isolation exercises up more frequently than you do with the compound exercises. And the reason being is because we all know the compound exercises are the hardest exercises, especially squats, man. They must be one of the hardest exercises to perform correctly and learn it correctly. Meaning these compound exercises take more motor learning. So if you keep changing them up and up, you're never going to get a technique right, and we need to get a technique right before we start adding loads of weight onto that bar. So the final answer is change the isolation exercises up maybe once a month, and the compound exercises you can change them maybe every 3 months. Just rotate them so you can resensitize your muscles for new growth. And again, covering fatigue management, this one is very important, because if you are following a periodized scheme or program, whichever you want to call it, when you get to week 4, you are training near your maximum recoverable volume, meaning you overreaching, right? That's the whole purpose of it. Now, after those 4 weeks, if you still don't take a deload, which comes into fatigue management, you're not giving your body the recovery it really needs, then if you do 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 7 weeks without a deload, then you're kind of looking for trouble. First of all, you're going to get way too fatigued, meaning the weight on the bar that you can lift will be impacted, meaning the amount of volume you could do. So your volume load will be impacted, meaning your results will be impacted, meaning the likelihood of you getting injured is also impacted. So those are the 5 main principles when it comes to programming: progressive tension overload, increasing volume load, specificity, variation, and fatigue management. So now that we know that, let's get into some more factors, right? All of this is incorporated into my program, and you can do the same too. So factor number 1 being exercise, so the exercise selection. When it comes to exercises, you should mainly do exercises for range of motion, and we all know, and the current literature as in scientific research, a lot of studies more favor the full range of motion side. Some studies that actually favor the half rep range of motion sides are actually exercises that require less load at certain points. Meaning, if you're doing a skull crusher like this is one of the studies, the amount of weight you're actually holding, the tension on the muscle when it's here, it's almost locked out, so it's not a lot of tension. Therefore, if you do want to do half rep shit, then you can just go from here to there and come back on certain exercises. But in most exercises, I highly recommend a full range of motion, as muscle growth is better when, especially the chest as well, when your muscle is stretched and then being fully contracted again. Another point in exercises is the type of exercises, right? A lot of people will tell you to do more compound exercises than isolation exercises, which in my opinion is definitely right. The reason being is because the compound exercises actually provide more homeostatic disruption. Now the reason being is because think how many muscle groups are being worked. Let's take a deadlift for example. Your legs, your glutes, your back, loads of muscle groups compared to a dumbbell 1-arm row or some isolation exercise like that. So again, compound movements, the base, you need to build a base and that pyramid, and then isolation exercises can kind of rotate around that. Factor number 2 is repetition ranges. Now again, this is linking into specificity, that stupid name that I'm struggling to say. Now repetition ranges are very, very important, right? Again, if your main aim is muscular hypertrophy and you're working in a rep range of, let's say the basic strength rep range of about 4 to 6 all the time, you're likely going to miss out on some gains on the table. You're going to leave them on the table. Whereas again, on the other hand, if you just primarily focus on 7 to 15 reps for one whole year, you're also leaving gains on the table. So what I'm trying to get at is, sometimes you need to do some strength work when your main aim is muscular hypertrophy as well. And the reason being is because we know 3 things need to happen to maximize muscular hypertrophy. Number 1, mechanical tension, basically the weight on the bar getting stronger. Number 2, metabolic stress and muscle damage, and them 2 being basically the pump. Now, if you're increasing the weight on the bar over a period of time, so you're increasing your strength, then when you go back to the kind of quote-unquote moderate rep range, hypertrophy rep range, you'll be able to handle more load. So if that was all too much for you, basically do a lot of hypertrophy training and then sometimes come back to strength training just for a few weeks, then go back to hypertrophy training. And there are many ways to do it. As you can see in my program, my aim was actually to increase my strength on a bench press, so therefore I worked at a quote-unquote basic strength rep range. So factor number 3 is the session structure. So number 1, you're going to start off with a general warm-up, of course. Number 2 is going to be specific. So if our main aim is bodybuilding, let's say we want to bring up our legs, then we're going to start off with maybe some squats. So we're going to do some squats as well. And that comes into number 3, which is potentiation. Basically starting off with the bar, then slowly adding a little bit of weight till you get to number 4, which is the working set. A very another common factor is increasing the weight. Now, when a lot of people train, especially when they first start, they want to go balls to the wall, failure all the time. Now, one thing you have to notice as well is when you design your own training program, when you periodize this stuff, you need to periodize from week 1 to week 4 if you do a week 1 to week 4 block. Now, week 1, you're going to start off with about 3 to 4 reps to failure, right? You're going to start off with that. Then when you get to week 4, when we're ramping up the volume load, remember, we're trying to get to our MRV, our maximum recoverable volume, and trying to overreach it. Remember, that's the whole purpose of muscular hypertrophy, increasing volume load. When we get to that, now we're only starting to hit failure. Now we're really trying to push it. I'm not saying we shouldn't be working close to failure at all. Of course we should, because we all know that's hitting failure and working near failure is real important for muscular hypertrophy. And lastly, we have increasing the amount of sets. I recommend you start off with about maybe 2 sets. You can even have 3 sets. I'll start off with 3 sets, and you increase this until you get to about the 4th week, and you get to about 4 to 6 sets. One thing you really have to understand though is there's so many individual differences, right? Personally, I'm pushing my boundaries. I'm going for about 23 to 25 sets per muscle group, around about that, especially the main muscle groups per week. And the reason being is because last time I got to about 20 sets, maybe 22 sets, and I didn't really suffer from any muscle soreness at all. And that being said, I haven't suffered from muscle soreness for a very long period of time, kind of giving me the indicator that I can kind of push my volume boundaries a little bit. We'll see when I carry out the program how it goes. But anyway, my point being, there's a lot of individual differences and how much volume you can handle. So that's basically how to design your own training program, right? Remember, apply those 5 principles and you should be good to go. Now, there's a lot of other things you can do. You can start off with a low frequency. You could do like 2 to 3 times per week, whereas I just started off with 6 and kept the frequency the same. But some people will say start off with a low frequency and increase the frequency to increase your volume load. And this basically works because if you think about it, if you're working out, let's say 3 times per week, and now you're working out 5 times per week, you're doing more work. And that in turn means more volume load, of course, if the weight and the sets times reps doesn't drop. Okay, so coming towards the end of the video, one thing I have to say is that I'm not like a specialist at programming or anything like that. My program, it might not be the best, right? And I typically don't recommend everyone follows this program, especially if you're just a beginner or just spat everywhere. You shouldn't probably be doing 25 sets per muscle group. That's quite a lot, and even myself, I don't know if I'll be able to handle it, but we'll see. So anyway, the main goal was here, increase flat bench press, bring that back up, and just get aesthetic. So that's it. 5 main principles in your training should be this. Remember, progressive tension overload, increase your volume load. The 2 main factors, specificity, variation, and fatigue management. Apply those 5 and you should be good to go. Remember, get stronger over a period of time, increase the volume load, set it enough, stay positive, stay smiling. Leave a comment down below if you'd like to see more of these videos on like more information, detail, even though most of the videos on my channel are informational, but you know what I'm trying to say. Hopefully you do. Stay positive, stay smiling, and as always, let's get this. I'm out.